Heads up.
Reporters. Bill, we might want to have you like. I just wanted to make sure Bill's here.
It's gonna be. I feel like. Oh, it's in this picture. Oh, it's through? Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, yes.
Oh, we need to get Lauren.
Oh, we need to get Lauren. Lauren, how's this?
Good, good. Okay, everybody good? So the sentencing hearing has just concluded in State versus Eugene Gligor. State's Attorney John McCarthy will run through what happened during the hearing. We're also going to have a brief statement from Benjamin Kurtz. He is a family friend and also an attorney. And then as a representative of the family, Mr. Bill Jennings, who is the brother of the victim, Leslie Prier, in this case. He's willing to take just a few questions from everyone. He doesn't have a prepared statement, but you can feel free to ask him some questions following the remarks from Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Kurtz.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon. My name is John McCarthy. I'm the state's attorney for Montgomery County. I'm honored to be surrounded by the friends and family that loved Leslie Prier and that have cooperated with us throughout this entire ordeal for many, many years. And I'm honored by the presence of every single person here today. This was an extraordinary family, Leslie being one of 8 children. I think everybody probably was impressed when you saw what a wonderful family this was, and they've been robbed of her all these years. Today we were in court because Eugene Gligor, a person known to the family, was sentenced by Judge David Lease for the murder of Leslie Prier back in May of 2021. He pled to second-degree murder. Because at the timing of that killing, the maximum penalty for second-degree murder today is 40 years. However, because of the date on which the crime was committed, his maximum penalty was 30 years. The state requested a sentence of 30 years. We thought it was appropriate. We asked for the maximum. We did it for multiple reasons. Many of you were in court. This was a vicious crime. The death in this case, this was a slow death with multiple instrumentalities. It was overkill. We believe it was aggravated by the fact that the victim in this case was known to Mr. Gligor, and even by his own admission, had treated him during a time when he dated her daughter for 5 years with nothing but kindness. We believe he lacks remorse. despite any statements to the contrary that were made in open court. He has not demonstrated by his conduct over 23 years before he was revealed to be the killer in this case to have any remorse for this particular crime. The sentence given by Judge David Lease, who presided over this matter, was a sentence of 30 years, suspend all but 22 years, with 5 years probation upon his release. If it was not obvious by the comments that were made in open court by the prosecution team, we reject the allocution relative to the diminished capacity of the defendant in this case being that significant. You look at the factors in this case. He drove 10 miles to go to the Freer house from his own home that morning. How intoxicated was he? He went into that house and he assaulted Miss Freer with lots of overkill, and then he hid the body. This is the person they're trying to tell you didn't realize what he was doing, but yet he secreted her body, took it to an upstairs bathroom, put it into a shower, and then ran scalding water over her body to wash away some of the evidence. He cleaned up the crime scene where he murdered her. And by the way, if you look at the pictures, and I think, look, there were some shocking reactions in the courtroom today when the pictures were demonstrated or displayed in court, and there were gasps from people who saw the depravity and the level of violence that Ms. Freer was subject to. He had to clean up. He was covered in blood, but he left. Didn't leave his clothes. He did a lot of cleaning up in that home. Where are the instrumentalities that he cleaned up? He removed the things that he wiped up the blood with, and then he fled. He knew this family. Every member of his family went to the funeral, not him. Based on the uncontradicted evidence, he left the jurisdiction for some period of time, went to the West Coast. He knew exactly what had happened. He knew exactly what he had done. We reject categorically the characterizations that were made in open court today. Anything to the contrary is just not true. We would also indicate, there was some testimony about his kindness and wanting to help other people. What about the cruelty this man knew this family? He was in the community where this was well publicized. For 23 years, he stood silent. There is cruelty in that. Not caring of other human beings or other people. For 23 years, Sandy, the loving husband of the victim in this case, was under the specter of being the killer. He died. He left the remainder of his life. And I know many of the family members talked about this. Sandy, who was a person that the family was, it was tough. It actually divided the family. The majority didn't think he did it, but some just didn't know. But an innocent man lived the remainder of his life under the specter of having taken the life of his wife, and he did not. His daughter, who he loves, who is with us today, had to live her lifetime for 23 years with the specter that possibly her father took her mother's life while she still maintained a life with her father. There is cruelty in that. The characterization that was made, I will tell you, I think to some of the family was offensive, as it was characterized in open court today. We reject that this is a kind, thoughtful young person. There's lots of thanks to go around in this case. Allison DePoy, Tara Augustin, who are with the cold case unit from Montgomery County Police. This is an extraordinary effort. Look, this is a history-making case. They used familial DNA, one of the first times in the history of Maryland, one of the first times in the country, to prove this case. Some of the details include the fact that when they looked at the familial DNA, they didn't know who they were looking for. We had samples from the crime scene in multiple locations, including under the fingernails of the victim, that all came from a single source male. Basically, in English, we were looking for one person, one male person who was responsible for this crime. We didn't know that person's name. But because they used familial DNA, we located a person in Eastern Europe. These detectives then had to concoct a family tree to try to find out who possibly within that family, because the DNA analysis says we don't have your killer, but we have someone related to them. You do the family tree, magnificent work over a number of years, and then we identify Mr. Gligor. Why? Because somewhere in the police file, these cold case files, see the name Gligor, because he was an old boyfriend of the victim's daughter. Extraordinary work. I want to thank them for that. It was marvelous work by the police. Look, we're very lucky here in Montgomery County. We got a great police department, and they close these kind of cases all the time, and we're blessed to have them. And I want to thank these two fine detectives. I will also say I'm very proud of the women from my office, Donna Fenton and Jody Mount, who handled this case. I think Bill, the oldest brother, who's here, said something in court today that was, to me, music to my ears. Bill said, these women treated us like we were family. They cared about us. They kept us informed of what was going on. And that was echoed by other people. I'm very proud. These are great lawyers. They're great lawyers, but I'm very proud of the compassion that we showed for this wonderful family and the way these two fabulous women prosecuted this case. I want to thank the family. I'm proud to be here, and I'm going to turn this. I'm going to stop in a second, but I've done this a long time. I've been with many of you a lot of times, and I heard echoed over and over again. There's no closure in these cases. It's a life sentence. It was a life sentence for Sandy to be accused of murder, and he died before he was ever exonerated. It's a life sentence for Lauren not to have her mom. It was a life sentence for Sandy not to have his beloved wife with him till he died. This woman was one of 8 children. This was a great family. They did stuff together. They were robbed of those family vacations. We saw pictures of them upstairs. They were robbed of all those moments that kept them together as a family, that told you how extraordinary they were. But the sentence given by the judge was appropriate. We wanted more, but the sentence was appropriate. It was above the Maryland sentencing guidelines, and we're happy for that. But this man deserves every second of the time he was given by the judge, and the sentence was absolutely appropriate. Having said that, we're going to go to...
If you had such strong evidence, DNA, in this case, why not reject the plea and go for a first degree where you can put him away for the rest of his natural life?
I'll take that. Let me let the other people speak, and I'll come back to that question. I don't want to interrupt. Good.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Kurtz. I represent Leslie's daughter as a victim representative. We want to first obviously thank the detectives for not giving up and getting this case closed eventually, and for the State's Attorney's Office that we know is a tough job. I know questions are coming about why not a first-degree murder, and I'll let them address that specifically, but there are obviously elements that are hard to prove when you have nothing but the body. So I understand why they offered the second degree is also to keep the family from having to go through a trial, and I think that was important to them. And they were all brought in and asked about this before they accepted it. So speaking on behalf of her daughter, she was definitely okay with this outcome, and I believe the family was too. They were consulted also. So we are happy with the result. We'd like to get the 32, obviously, but the guidelines were 10 to 18. And so for Judge Lease, who's a very kind of reasonable judge in this county, it was great to see him go above the guidelines, actually. So we're happy for that. We also are going to, moving forward, we are going to be filing a civil lawsuit against Mr. Gligor for wrongful death, and that'll be happening very shortly. With that, I'll let the brother make some comments.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Jennings. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. But first, I would like to reiterate what Mr. McCarthy said and give special thanks to State's Attorneys Jody Mount and Donna Fenton right behind me. We wouldn't have reached this milestone today without their help, and in particular, without Tara Augustin we wouldn't have got to this point either. Amazing job. Our family went through a lot of stress today, but the people behind me did as much as they could to make us feel as relaxed as possible and put up with the up and down emotions they knew we were going to have in the courtroom. I can tell you, despite all their preparation with us, I would not want to repeat the experience. It's very tough in a courtroom, and how these people do it day in and day out, my hat's off to them.
Mr. Jennings, a couple of questions. First off, do you feel justice was done, or then in your heart when you heard Gligor talking? Do you feel justice was done?
Gligor could have still be talking, and it wouldn't have done anything for me. I thought his words were empty, impossible to believe. And yes, on justice, we live within guidelines here, and luckily we got a sentence above the guidelines. So I'm not going to complain, and I don't think anybody else in my family is.
Mr. Jennings, your sister was the victim here, but speak to your former brother-in-law, Sandy, to have to live out his life under that suspicion, even from members of your own family?
Yeah, I cannot imagine being in his shoes. It definitely shortened his life significantly. The relationship with Lauren was cut way short. Lauren and Sandy got along great, and when your dad falls into depression as a result of the cloud of murder suspect hanging over your head, you just can't imagine how that would dampen your whole life.
Why did this happen? You know, trying to figure out what the motive is, if that's been something that's been repeating over this, you know, since it happened in 2001. How much has that question to do with your thing as far as why did this happen?
I think Judge Lease addressed that very well today. He said, when you have a senseless murder, don't try and make sense out of it, because you never will. And I believe that. There was nothing that came out that I've ever heard, or any of us have ever heard, that would give any logic or motive whatsoever.
Just some of your feelings about getting to this point, all of these years, where you are now today, and he's off the
Well, I would say if you have a friend or somebody you know that's in a tragedy, reach out to them, distract them, give them something else to think about, because these tragedies smother you. It's hard to escape. So if somebody tells you they're doing fine and they don't need your help, don't listen to them. Go help them.
I'm going to go back to the question. There was a question was asked as why we pursued second degree. Let me say, first of all, I want to begin with a comment I think Ben made. I will tell you, everything that is done, every step of the way in this process was discussed extensively with the family. And the decision to resolve this matter by way of a plea was something that was adopted by the family. I would also indicate to you that one of the things, anybody who's a trial lawyer will tell you, there are no sure things in going to trial. There are emotions, there are things that can happen, there's appeals that can go on. This family had already lived with this for nearly a quarter of a century, and if we could bring closure to this with no appeals on motions, no appeals on evidentiary rulings made by the judge, this brings really an assured closure, because he is admitting his responsibility for the crime. Look, I would also say for this family to have him come into court and admit his responsibility for the crime. A person that most of the people standing behind me loved Sandy. It really helped clear his name for him to publicly walk in and say, I did this. That was important to this family. So I will tell you, as in any case when we resolve a matter, you do look at the evidence. And this was a horrific crime. I'm not going to debate that with you. You were absolutely correct for lots of other reasons why this was the right plea in this case. And the family was intimately involved in helping us reach that conclusion.
I'm Detective Tara Augustin with the Cold Case Unit.
I saw him
I think so. We are happy to help any other jurisdictions that might have cases that they want some pointers on, and we have some great detectives in our unit and with great experience doing genealogy research, so we're always happy to help and share our success.
Tell me about the satisfaction of a woman in Romania leads you back here.
I'm not going to comment on that. So the genealogy statute in Maryland is pretty strict in not allowing us to talk about information for individuals that weren't involved in the crime, so I can't answer that for you. Sorry. I think it's the Eugene show in his mind, and I think it's the same thing over and over. I don't believe anything he says.
Okay, if there's no further, thank you very much, everybody.
We run into one another getting crabs in and out.
Total professional.
Blair, I think we're all going to get a picture in front of you. Oh, good. Thank you, Judy.
I have belts of leather that have shrunk and they do noise. Taking a picture. Where's Ryan? Or Patrick? You're Ryan. There it is. Patrick, this one says.
Okay, she has to speak to us. Just a quick. Is that okay? Yes,
Give him the victory sign.
Jody. Jody.
Why don't you guys stand under the phone?
This is what's bad. Yeah, exactly. Bring that. Aunt Robin.
Are you going to go?
Sorry.
Get out of the way.
I know.
You don't need